listening to No Retreat, hosted by Cheryl Ann, produced by Scott Douglas. Today on No Retreat, our guest is Patrick Herrmann, who's running in South Carolina for U.S. Senator in the primary, which is June 9th, running against Lindsey Graham and a slate of others. Patrick, would you take a minute and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Patrick Herrmann. I'm running for United States Senate to unseat Lindsey Graham. I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've been here, I'm 51 years old. I've been here for 33 years. I went to school at Coastal Carolina University, and I also have a small business called Rotopat. We do cleaning and restoration, mold removal, fire and water damage restoration, and I live on a small farm. I've got a 32-acre farm with chickens and guineas and dogs, and that's it.
Well, what motivated you to get in this race?
All right, so there's a lot of motivation there. It's not just one thing, and but one thing that stands out to me is very obvious. We had these Carolina forest fires in Carolina Forest, which is in Myrtle Beach. It's in Horry County. That's where I live. And after the fires, Lindsey Graham came down with some other representatives, and he spoke to the people about the fires. And so when he was speaking, there were some protesters there. And I say protester, they all say they were bussed in, but they're only 10 or 12, and they were all locals, and they were concerned about Medicare. Now, I was not there, by the way. This is just a publicly available video. I was working in my business at the time, but I was aware he was in town. And so he starts speaking, and the people are protesting or chanting town hall, because like he hasn't had a town hall here. And I mean, since I was 18 years old, so 33 years, I don't know if he's ever had a town hall. So they're chanting town hall, and it wasn't overwhelmingly loud, but it bothered him, obviously. And so he said, I don't need a town hall. I know what to do. And I heard that. And the first thing I thought was, you can't tell your people, your constituents that. Like, this is not right. This is unacceptable. Why would you say that? You know, I'm the type of person that would have said, well, okay, sounds good. Right after we're finished with this news press release, we're going to talk, right? Like, that's what you're supposed to do, but he didn't do it. I don't understand. So that's a motivating factor. And when your politicians start doing this, you know it's time, and they got to go. It's just unacceptable. But, you know, when you have hundreds of millions of dollars in political action committee support, maybe he feels comfortable and he thinks he can get away with it. And maybe he will get away with it. We don't know. That's why we all have to go to vote. So that's one reason. Another reason is, you know, I grew up as a kid here, and I say a kid, my grandparents would rent a house in Garden City and Burles Inlet. And my grandparents I don't have a family. I'm not married, never been married, no kids, no divorce, anything like that. But I come from a huge family. My grandparents had 5 daughters. They all got married. They all had kids, grandkids, you name it. So I come from a big family, and, you know, my mom was cool. So as I grew up, when I hit 16, going down to the beach on vacation, she's like, here are the keys, you go have fun. And so I take the keys to her car, a little Toyota Corolla, and we're not rich or anything. And I would go to the beach, go to the pavilion. There was a really cool record store I always go to. They always had the best music, and on 38th Avenue North. And it was fine. And so one day there's college day. I'm back home in Virginia, Colonial Heights, and Coastal Carolina University was there. It's my junior year, and they were doing college day, and they're like, oh yeah, this and that. What do you want to major in? I said marine biology, marine science. They're like, well, we have that program. I'm like, yeah, but you're in South Carolina. I can't do that. I can't afford that. And they're like, well, you can get in-state tuition if you major in marine science. And my eyes opened up, and I said, what? So long story short, I went to Coastal Carolina University, and I had the same freedom. I knew the beach. I knew every part of it because I was a kid. I played in it, and it was wonderful. I mean, you could go down to Ocean Boulevard, and everything was just fine and dandy. But now, today, there's shootings almost every day. It's unacceptable. It's ridiculous. And so I look at this. I'm like, I can't leave this behind. I got to do something to make it better. What can I do to make South Carolina better? Get rid of the crime, fix the roads, fix the infrastructure. Whatever I can do, I'm going to do it because we're not being represented. And that's how it all started.
Well, I think when I heard you say, well, I don't need a town hall, that would have lit a fire under me so big. I mean, that is precisely why we are trying to unseat a lot of the incumbents right now. That is precisely why people want to get out and vote, because this is the attitude that we're tired of.
We've got to do it. Right.
The fact that the Save America Act has been sitting there for over 100 days after it was redone and to satisfy the Senate's requirements and whatever, right? It was the Save Act first, and it sat there for almost a year. Okay, in like 6 or 8 months, whatever. And then they redid it as the Save America Act, right? And sent it back to the Senate. And now it's sat for over 100 days. And they have no intention of passing this. None. It will not be passed with this Congress. I say that authoritatively.
It's ridiculous we're even talking about it. It's such a common sense bill. And, Lindsey Graham 2 weeks ago, he had a chance to sneak it in through the budget committee, and he didn't. And this is what the people want, right? And so I'm pointing the finger right at Lindsey Graham, obviously, but that because we have control of that, right? No, we don't have control of that. Lindsey Graham has these closed door events, and if you do have a ticket, they don't let you ask questions, and he doesn't care. He's more worried about what country are you not bombing, Lindsey Graham? That's what he's worried about. And South Carolinians haven't been represented in 24 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm fired up.
Absolutely. As well, I think everybody should be. And I'm so happy to be talking to you, because we're going to put this out, and hopefully we're going to get some South Carolinians to get off the couch and go vote. Or if they're at work, if they're hardworking South Carolinians, which most Republicans or conservatives are,
right?
Take your lunch break. Your employer has to give you a lunch break. They have to let you go vote. It's the law. Right. Just do it, okay? I don't care if you're a cashier at McDonald's when you get off work. Seriously, you can make a plan now. Call a local church. Call somebody. If you don't think you're going to have a ride, go early vote now. Get a ride with somebody, go vote on your day off. Whatever.
Right.
Whatever you need to do. And sometimes people have excuses, right? Like, oh, I live out in the country, Call a local conservative church. They will find someone to get you to the polls. I promise.
That's right.
This is the South. I live near Nashville. If somebody called my church and said, I'm 75 out in the country, don't have a car, and I want to come vote, you know what? We would get on the phone and find somebody that could go pick that person up and get them to a poll. We wouldn't ask them who are you voting for. We wouldn't ask them what's your party. If you can't figure out how to get to the polls, but you're a registered voter, a registered Republican voter in South Carolina, call somebody.
That's right.
And get a free ride to the polls. We don't need to bus people to the polls. But if you can't get a ride, call somebody. People will come pick you up, won't they? I mean, this is the South.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's the type of community you're hopefully running to represent, right?
They need to show up and vote.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Because right now, the people that are making the decisions have not been making the right decisions the past 24 years. And so it's time. It's time for change. To get some fresh leadership in there, good ideas, someone that's motivated. I'm young. I'm 51 years old. And some of the other candidates, they're almost 70, and Lindsey will be 71 here in July. It's his birthday. I'm like, get some fresh ideas in there. That's what it's all about. Someone that loves the state, loves the people, and you got to do it.
Well, and the only way you're going to get energy right? Like, if we look at what's been happening politically across the U.S. with Turning Point USA, et cetera, getting younger people energized, they're
Right.
not going to stay energized with 70 plus people being their representatives.
They can't relate. That's exactly right. I went to Turning Point event at Coastal Carolina University, and it was a watch party for the State of the Union. And these kids, I say kids, but they're grown adults. These kids know so much about politics. I was just surprised because most people that age, when I went to college, didn't. I was one of the people that I registered to vote at 18. That was just me. And I was very involved at Coastal Carolina University. I was in lots of organizations. But these Turning Point kids, wow, like they're impressive. They're so impressive. I'd like to make them part of my staff. If I was elected as U.S. Senator, these are the kids that I want, because one day they're going to be in my shoes and they're going to be running the country.
Yeah, this is key, right? That's what we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about, how do we get somebody that's going to listen to the people, right? Have town halls, hear what the constituents actually care about. Don't just assume, right? Don't just assume because you've been there for 30 years, you know what we want, right? As constituents.
Like, so you're saying it right on, because whenever I talk and I hear the other candidates speak, they're not talking about issues that from the constituents. These are like, I call them campaign manager talking points. Their campaign manager told them what to say. They think that's what's important. And here I am talking about the issues from my constituents. These aren't all my ideas. These are my constituents' ideas that they call me, tell me their problems, and we figure out solutions. That's what's important. And let me tell you how important it is. I started talking about an issue about red snapper, and I talked about it for about 30, 35 days. And guess what happened? President Trump started talking about it.
Yes, I saw it all over X. I saw it all over X last week, finally. And I didn't know anything about it. But I'm like, why is somebody, who doesn't have to rely on this, why are they making a legislative or a rule-making decision or whatever, restricting this from the people that,
right, and the issue, that's right. And some people don't even understand the issue. Red snapper is a short season. You can only get 75 pounds per trip, but you have fishermen from other countries coming over to our waters. We don't have enough patrol boats to patrol in the Coast Guard, and they'll come out and they'll take 2,000-3,000 pounds of our red snapper, and our fishermen, which can hardly afford the diesel to get their boats out into the ocean, they can only get 75 pounds. And tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. And so I'm talking about it, and all of a sudden now the president's talking about it. And there are other things I started talking about. When I first announced I was running, I said, we need to work on some tax issues. I have a number one, number two. Number two is on the federal level. Number one really has nothing to do with me, but we need to work together with our state legislatures. And that number one was eliminate South Carolina income tax. And guess what? I called Nancy Mace. I left a voicemail. I said, I got the best policy out there, and here's why, and blah, blah, blah. The next day, she posts about it. Hey, how do you think about limiting South Carolina income tax? And everybody else, all the other candidates started talking about it. Look, I'm telling you something right now. I'm a leader. I don't have those campaign manager talking points. There are things that are important. I'm talking about them, trying to make a difference here. And people are listening to me. They're not listening to the other candidates.
I think that is a good point. And, nothing really to do with me, but to bolster your point about when we start really being vocal about something that matters to people. I don't mean, like you say, the talking points, okay? I started posting, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, regular daily things about the people who are filing, the sponsors for H-1B visas that are filing for them, and how many positions they were filing for, and how many individuals. And I was posting the companies' names, how to contact them, everything. These are the people, these are how many of these applications have been approved in the past, whatever. And all of a sudden, my account that I might struggle to see 3,000 or 4,000 people viewing my stuff in a given day. Now I see every big account talking about it. I see every big account posting about it. My views skyrocketed, went through the roof.
Wow.
Because it was an issue that everybody is uptight about. Because real citizens in Tennessee and South Carolina and Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and Texas and everywhere else in the U.S. are losing opportunities for really nice paying jobs because we're not restricting this enough. We're just allowing too much fraud, waste, and abuse in that program. It's
ridiculous, and we're hardly even prosecuting all this fraud that we're finding. We need to work on that. Yes. I agree, 100%.
Handcuffs and orange jumpsuits is what I want to see next for the fraudsters.
Yes. Yeah, and picking up trash on the side of the road. Put them to work in the Humane Society, taking care of dogs. Give them a job. Yes, they need to be in jail. They need to understand what hard work is, chain gang, whatever it takes. I agree.
Yes, after you've stolen how many billions of dollars from us, the taxpayers. I personally feel that the fraud that went on in Minnesota, before we knew it was everywhere, right? When Nick Shirley was first pointing it out, I was like, I have standing to file a suit against those people. And you know why? Because they stole federal tax dollars, and I give federal tax dollars, so it's my money they stole.
That's right. It's your money. It's our money. It's all the constituents' money. That's right. Look, so I'm gonna tell you something. I am the first person in the history of the United States of America to author 2 bills before I've even been elected as U.S. Senator. One of those is a Nick Shirley Act, which will reward people that turn in fraud, which is important. And the other one is called the Small Business Retribution Act, which will help small businesses that offer services that are taken advantage of as a way of retribution. And what I mean by that is, if you're a small business owner, well, let's back up. If someone goes to Walmart and they steal a TV, what happens?
They get banned from Walmart, and they have to either give the TV back or pay a fine or pay a court cost. Yes.
Right, but they're going to get arrested. They're going to go to jail, and they're going to get a misdemeanor, or if it's something big, like if you steal a car, you got a felony. But I'm a small business owner, so I don't do roofs. But a customer called me, and he said, hey, what happens when I go do a job? I do a $26,000 roof. I've got video of it. It was done right. All the materials there. It's all plain and simple. I've got a contract and a deposit, and they don't want to pay the rest of that roof. What happens? Well, they don't go to jail. The business owner has to do what? They got to hire an attorney. They got to collect all the data.
They got to sue them. Yeah, they got
to sue them. It takes 2 or 3 years. And by then, their attorney fees might exceed the value of what they did, the service they did. A lot of small business owners can't afford it. They give up. Well, that'll put you out of business if that happens 2 or 3 times. So what needs to be done is there needs to be a charge, whether it's a misdemeanor or felony type charge, depending on how much the service was. That person needs to be arrested. They need to be charged, and before they can get out of jail, they have to post a bond for the amount of that service. So if that's a $26,000 roof, they have to post a $26,000 bond. And so this is what that does. Number one, it'll teach them a lesson. Number two, they probably won't do it again. They'll probably end up paying it as soon as possible so they don't go to jail for felony. And number three, now small businesses can check your records to see if you have a criminal history for defrauding small businesses.
Now that I like that part a lot because it happens all the time. You know, Tennessee, we have a lot of severe weather, tornadoes and stuff, and constantly people, the other side of it, the homeowners get defrauded by the fly-by-night people that come and say they're doing a roof and then they don't do it, like the reverse, right? But if you had it where it could work either way, whether you're the customer or the business, right?
Right.
And
that's right.
And that you get to, you know, that if they defraud you, they're going. I love it. And you know,
you're going to jail, but no one talks about this at all.
They don't. And it's because the people that are driving the conversation. And this is a really good point, Patrick, I think, for us to put out there, that is part of the reason candidates like you are important, is because the people in Congress right now, the only small businesses they've ever run are law offices.
Conflict of interest businesses,
yes,
sometimes.
Stuff like that, whatever. They have not run boots on the ground. I'm getting in there and redoing the plumbing for this guy, or they haven't done the hard work of building a business from the ground up.
Ground up, not given to you, not something you got from daddy,
Correct.
Something you built yourself, right?
And that's the problem. They don't understand, like you said, it only takes one or two people to go back on something where you had a contract and now it falls through, for your entire business to be belly up, for you to go bankrupt.
And you're done.
And people don't understand what that means for small business. What that means for small business is you lose your home. You lose your everything except one car, whatever. You're renting an apartment now. You've lost whatever home, whatever property that you had. When you go back, when a small business owner goes bankrupt, their family goes bankrupt. It's not.
That's right.
It's not like a corporation that goes bankrupt.
And then trickles down to your good employees too, because it's a transition. It's a struggle. That's right.
Yeah, and that's why it's really important to have candidates that have lived some of these experiences like you have.
Right.
I mean,
right. So can I cut you off?
Yes, go for it.
Oh, you got me riled up here. So look at the candidates. Look at all of them really close, and then say, okay, what's that candidate's expertise, and what are they doing about it? Well, out of all the candidates that are running, not one of them has said, this is my expertise, and this is what I'm going to do about it. No one's doing that. I'm the only one. So let me tell you, I own a cleaning restoration business. We do water damage. We do flood damage. If someone's house floods, I go over there. I extract the water. I'll muck out the mud and the poop and all that stuff. I'll tear out the drywall. I'll gut all the furniture. I'll do all that. And then I'll dry it out. And then I'll put it back together. I'll do all of that. And then I deal with NFIP, flood insurance. And let me tell you something. They don't pay industry standard. They pay 50 cents on the dollar. There are things they don't pay for. So if you're a homeowner and you have flood insurance and you think everything's going to be covered, you're in for a big surprise, because number one, you're going to have to pay your deductible. Well, that's expected. Okay. And flood insurance deductibles are high. They're not a lot normal than others. Sometimes they're $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. Number two, then the adjuster shows up and he says, yeah, I'm not going to pay to dry your crawl space. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to put new plywood down on your subfloor when the LVLs, which are the supports under the house, are soaking wet and they're covered with mold? And you're not going to let me dry that out. So I got to put that house back together wet? No, I got to dry it out. And then the customer gets another $10,000 or $20,000 bill that NFIP is not paying for. What's the point of insurance if you can't afford to get your house back in order?
I totally agree. It would make you a wonderful person working on the FEMA, whatever committee does FEMA. Seriously.
It's a housing. Yeah, that's right. It's a housing committee. It's the A committee. They're different committees. You got A, B, and C.
Yeah.
New junior senators are allowed to have one A committee. They're allowed 2 or 3 B committees, and they're allowed to have unlimited C committees. But the big ones are your A committee. What are you going to do as a junior senator? Unless you have an expertise, and I do, and I'm the only one that has that type of expertise, they better put me on that committee. They better put me on that committee, because that's my expertise, right? Don't give me a leftover committee. This is what I'm here for. I can make a difference. Put me on the right committee. But the other candidates, they're not talking about any of that. What's your expertise? What are you doing? Oh, maybe small business. Well, what's your expertise in your small business, and how are you going to apply that to your U.S. Senate? And no one's doing it.
Well, I think a lot of people don't talk about that stuff because they're not even considering it. They're considering like a big picture. Like, this is part of the problem that we have. So I'm a political science minor, and so I'm 60. I'm going to be 61 this year. I served in D.C. as an intern for the then Honorable Senator Al Gore Jr. For one summer. That is when I became converted from more socialist kind of leaning towards a conservative.
Okay.
I saw what was going on. I did his legal assistance. I did all of her research for the Family Medical Parental Leave Act. Okay. I saw how everything worked. I saw how the senators would come in right before a vote, and their legislative aides would run with them down to the chamber, telling them how they were going to vote on an issue.
What?
This is how it works, okay? This is how it works. I'm here to tell you, they don't make the decisions on what they're voting. The people they hire that staff their offices tell them how they're supposed to vote on a given legislation. Most of the time, they don't read the legislation. They pay people to read it for them and tell them what it means.
Wow.
And so if you don't go into this understanding that there's going to be things that are really strange when you show up, and if you don't go in like you have, at least with a focus, right? Like this is what I know how to do, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
this is where I can plug in. And I love the fact that you have submitted some laws already. I have written over 10 pieces of legislation. They are sitting in my highlights tab on X. In various forms, all dealing with a wide variety of issues. Okay. Now, has anybody ever sponsored one of them? No, but I've written them.
That sounds. I'm interested. That sounds pretty cool. And that's where your ideas come from, or your constituents. It's not just you saying, "Oh, I need to make up this idea, and I'm going to do this." And Lindsey Graham's submitted hundreds of bills, and how many have been passed? It's something like 2 or 3%. And no, so he's passed 24 bills, and it's been over the period of like 24 years. So and maybe those are ones he sponsored or co-sponsored, but
that's probably including co-sponsored, not original, like that he started, right? Like
right. I just don't. He doesn't talk about it, right? The things he talks about drives me nuts. Can we keep talking for a second?
Oh, absolutely. I got time.
Okay, so look, like I went to Greenwood, South Carolina, from Myrtle Beach, 4.5 hours. I drove to see him speak in Greenwood, and he wouldn't let me in. His staff wouldn't let me in. They were polite, but they would not let me in because I was running against Lindsey. I'm like, okay. So then he comes to Myrtle Beach a couple months later, and this time I got a ticket because I'm an executive committeeman in the GOP. This time I got a digital ticket. It didn't cost anything. And I showed up to Veterans Cafe, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Herrmann, you can't come in here." And I said, "Look, I won't heckle. I'll be polite, cordial. I just want to listen. I won't say a thing." And they said, "You can't come in. I'm sorry." I said, "Well, look, there's another event. It's at Journey Church. It's in 1 hour from now. Can I go to that?" And they said, "Well, it's not our event, so we can't tell you if you can go to it." I said, "Well, then let me be very clear. I'm going to that event. I've planned on it, and I will be polite, cordial. I will not heckle or ask questions. Okay?" And they said, "Okay." They kind of looked at me odd, like they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So I get to Journey Church, and Pastor Tom's there, and I knew him, and I know him, and they hadn't even opened the doors yet, but he opened up the doors for me. I didn't even have to knock. He just opened it up, and all the security, lots of police officers in there. I said, "I got to tell you a story." Told him the same story as you. He said, "You're good. You can stay here." And this event was more about Israel and not really campaign. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Let me tell you, I'll be polite, cordial, won't heckle, won't ask questions." He said, "Cool." So I talked to people. I knew a lot of officers there and firefighters and stuff. And then I went and sat down, and like 30 minutes later, he walks in. He's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Lindsey Graham's staff called me." I said, "Okay. Well, what'd they say?" He's like, "They just want to make sure you're polite, cordial, don't heckle, ask questions." I said, "Well, I told you I'd honor my word. I won't do that." But so he talks. He had the pre-talk Israel guy. I don't remember who he was. He talked, did a great job. Lindsay spoke. He did a good job. Like, I was impressed. He knows the stuff. People like him. He got us laughing. And of course, they didn't heckle, ask questions. Then he starts talking about how he's going to get on the Judiciary Committee and he's going to elect new judges. And he says, saying we're going to have 2 Supreme Court justices retire. Well, guess what? We're not going to have 2 Supreme Court justices retire anytime soon. They're going to wait until President Trump is out. They're going to wait as long as possible. Maybe 1, but that's it. And so here he is campaigning on a promise on something that's most likely not even going to happen. And everyone's, just they're paying attention, they're clapping, but they don't understand because they don't care. They don't educate themselves about the things that you and I care about. So my whole point is he has closed door policies. He won't let you in. You can't ask questions. And his constituent services are awful. You want me to tell you a story about that?
Absolutely.
All right. So there's a veteran in Socastee, South Carolina, and he helps veterans that need to up their disability. They're 80, 90 years old. They don't know how it works. They don't have the patience to deal with the technology and the computers. He volunteers his time. His name is Tony Years. He makes $150 a week. So he's not like a paid employee. He just helps you. And so he called me up and he said, I got questions for you. I'm like, okay, what's up? He's like, I got a lot of questions. He asked me a lot of questions and he said, okay, I got a problem. All right. What's your problem? So he told me what he did, and he said, I help veterans, and I help them every day. And the problem is when they come into the office, and I call Lindsey Graham, he don't call me back. He doesn't help us. Tim Scott helps out a little bit, but Lindsey Graham doesn't. He's awful. He doesn't care about our veterans. I'm like, well, he is a veteran. He's like, yep, he's doing an awful job. And he said, will you help me? I said, I'll help you. And he said, okay, I'm going to promote you. I'm going to talk to everybody I can, every single person. And so he's been great. He's been putting me in touch with everybody.
It's so odd to hear that, because I will tell you, if you get elected as the senator from your state, okay, every Senate office, okay, every senator receives somewhere between $4 and $7 million a year as your budget for your Senate offices and staff. Okay. That includes what is in your state as well as DC. Okay. And part of that is for you to have people that handle all the constituent services. It's not for use on, lavish trips abroad or wherever. Okay. It's not. Sure. It's for your offices. And I cannot for the life of me think how you would not, let's say that South Carolina doesn't have the largest population. Let's say you get 5 million. It's population based, I think. So let's say you get $5 million a year to staff your offices. That is not including you get like $1,000 a month in office supplies. There's all kinds of very legislated budget items for what you have available as a senator.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure. Okay.
So I don't see how any constituent couldn't be called back when you have that kind of a budget for the year.
Right. Or they're not accomplishing what they need to. Every time I see Lindsey Graham
even
staff,
but at the bare minimum, right? A personal phone call back to every constituent can happen if it's needed. And I'm not talking about when you have the mass phone calls from the whole 50 states where everybody's fired up and they're calling you about pass the SAVE Act. That's not what I'm talking about. Because every senator, if you call their office, it will say, hit 1 if you need a constituent service, right? Or hit 2 or whatever. They'll have an option for you to select that you're a constituent and you need help with something.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here. He has people on staff that should be doing that are being paid to do that.
Now, look, so I've been campaigning all over the state. I go to every event I've been invited to. I see everybody else. I see all the other candidates. They all see me. We're all trying to do the best we can. And 99% of the things that when I start talking and I say, I'm running to unseat Lindsey Graham, they go nuts. They go nuts. But I'm going to tell you one good story. So this lady we had an event in Beaufort, and I love Beaufort. It was right after Aiken. Aiken's fun too. But in Beaufort, and I believe she might even be the chairwoman. I think her name is Deborah, but I've met thousands of people. And she said, look, we had some problems with some beach renourishment, and we reached out to Lindsey Graham, and he got us what we needed. Well, first of all, let me be very clear. If you're in a position as a U.S. Senator, you're probably going to get a worm every once in a while. Like, you're going to do some good, right? But the next sentence that came out of my mouth just painted the picture. And she says, we hate Lindsey Graham. He's awful. So every once in a while, the bird gets a worm, but he's done.
He's not paying attention to you. You started off our conversation with what sets the tone for me. When he said he didn't need town halls, he knew what to do. Nobody knows what to do. I'm sure you know who Scott Pressler is, right? So he told everybody ahead of time that he was running to be on the state GOP committee, right, in Bucks County in Pennsylvania. But he said, and I will vote the way the constituents of Buck County want me to vote, even if I disagree with you. I wish that every single representative in any elected position would commit to listening to their constituents like that.
Right. And one of the first things I said when I started in my Facebook cover page says, your voice is my voice. That's exactly right. It's the constituents. It's not your idea. It's not your thought process. It's about the constituents. And if there's something they want, like passing the SAVE Act, Lindsey Graham should have jumped on that a long time ago. If there's one reason we all don't vote for him, that's it. That's one reason right there.
Well, yes, he actually, he has, out of the people that are up there, he probably had one of the top 5 in terms of political clout and longevity that he could have forced this issue. He could have got himself on a national stage instead of flying to Ukraine every 5 seconds. And he could have made a difference for the rest of America, not just South Carolinians, even though he's senator for South Carolina. He could have made a difference for generations of American citizens by having that act passed. He could have cemented his future in the Senate for another decade if he wanted to be there, 2 or 3 more terms if he was still alive.
That's exactly right. If he wanted to get reelected, he would have done that. But he doesn't care.
I agree.
Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why.
Because he's got tons of money he's made doing insider trading and getting kickbacks from Ukraine and whoever else. Yes.
Oh, right. Yes. First of all, I will take no AIPAC money, but let me tell you why, though. I'm going to answer your question. He's friends with John Thune. They go way back to Congress. So, and that's why. It's a good old boy system, and he's a flip-flopper, and so is Thune. They're both rhinos. That's right. But your point, you made it exact. If his whole race was based, and people would just say, let me just pick one issue with Lindsey Graham, and they realize he didn't pass the Save America Act, that's it right there. He's done. You shouldn't be voting for him at all.
Yeah, that's why Cornyn's going to lose today, I think, or hopefully. I don't know. I haven't looked at. Oh, they're not closed. They're not done voting yet. So
we're going to see what happens.
And, now, is your primary a winner take all or a 50 plus?
It says 50% plus one. So if Lindsey Graham gets 50% plus one, and he's polling 56, 57, I've seen it down to 54 recently. And you got to remember this, though, they're polling hard Republicans that always vote in the primaries, in the midterms. That's who they're polling, and they're polling all over South Carolina. So they're not polling the soft Republicans. They're not polling the soft they're not pulling the independents. They're not pulling, anybody else. People that are just focus on the issues. They focus on what's important, who the best candidate is. They're not polling any of that.
Well, then those are the people that we've got to get out to vote. Because I'll be honest, I'm not from South Carolina. I do not care who wins the Republican nomination as long as it's not Lindsey Graham. So for me, I want all of y'all to take tons of percentage away from him. And then y'all can have a runoff afterwards.
And you know who could win this race? I'm going to tell you who could win this race. The constituents that are the Charlie Kirks. If they show up to vote, and the ones that love Charlie Kirk, and they can make a decision. They'll make the decision on who wins 100%.
Well, that's the next call you need to be making, is calling back those TPUSA kids and telling them, look, you guys are going to make the whole difference. Get them out, get them out to vote.
TPU is so busy. I've called them over 2,500 times when I first started. I'm not kidding. I left over 2,500 messages every day, 7 to 10 times a day, over again. And then I would follow up with anybody's phone number that works for them, and I could call every single person over and over and over again. Erica Kirk, no return call.
Well, of course not from her, but I'm just saying the local TPUSA chapters. But yes, they're busy.
At Coastal Carolina, they're good. They're good. They get it. They understand. But the national team, they need some work. They need to pay attention. What did Charlie Kirk say before he passed away when he was in Myrtle Beach? Like 2 or 3 weeks before he passed away, he was assassinated to say passed away. He said, "I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Lindsey Graham's got to go."
Yeah,
that was a message to me. I promise you.
Well, I tell you what, I have really enjoyed this, Patrick. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really feel like I'm starting to get to know you. Maybe my husband and I will come out and we'll have dinner someday.
That'd be awesome.
That would be incredible. So just to remind everyone, we are speaking tonight with Patrick Herrmann, running for U.S. Senate in the primary, the Republican primary. Is this this isn't a primary where people can cross over. This is Republicans only, correct?
Well, Republican primaries are open, so you're
anybody can go vote for you.
That's right. And so here's the problem, though. A lot of those voters that are going to show up are Democrats voting for Lindsey Graham.
Okay, so we've got to get out the low propensity voters.
We need everybody. It's not a certain type of voter. We just need everybody to show up.
Yes.
13% is historical. I mean, good gracious. Like, we need 50%. We need 80%. I mean, we've got to do something.
And we got 2 weeks to make it happen.
That's right.
And I wish you all the best of the luck in the world. And I just want to thank you so much for giving your time and energy and effort. It is truly something that only people that care about their country and their fellow citizens would do, because this is not an easy thing.
Well, thanks, Cheryl. You're a patriot, and I appreciate you hosting me, allowing me to speak and reach the voters of South Carolina.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great evening, and I will get you your copy of all of this within the next 2 business days.
You're wonderful. Thank you very much.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye.
You've been listening to No Retreat. Guest Patrick Herrmann. And as always, everyone, be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you.